Lenin's mother's Jewishness first became known when, 8 years after his death, the leader's elder sister, Hannah, after studying the family tree of her family, discovered this fact. She carried out the work on compiling her brother's pedigree, not only out of her own interest, but, above all, on the instructions of the Secretariat of the Central Committee of the Kipiso. Anna read Stalin a report on their mother's Jewish roots. Ilyish's sister naively believed that this fact should not be hushed up in her brother's biography, but, on the contrary, should be openly voiced, showing that the blood of different peoples flowed in Lenin's veins. Recall that among the ancestors of Ilyich were not only Russians, but also Kalmyks and Germans and Swedes and so on. Such openness, according to Anna, would symbolize the internationality of the revolution and, according to Anna, an emphasis on Lenin's Jewishness would help overcome the anti-Semitism that flourished in the country at the beginning of the last century. The fact that she has established about her Jewish grandfather, as she wrote, may serve a great service in the fight against anti-Semitism, but, in my opinion, it can do no harm. However, Stalin listened to her information and advice. Omar Bin thanked her for the work she had done and then ordered his entourage to carefully classify the data on Lenin's Jewish roots. People had to believe that the leader of the world's proletariat was Russian. There is an opinion that Lenin himself, during his lifetime, hid the belongings of his ancestors to the children of the Jewish people. However, most historians still agree that the leader, most likely, simply did not know about this fact, as well as his brothers and sisters. The Ulyanov family never discussed the biography of their mother's father. The parents did not tell their children much about him, but at the same time mentioned that his wife, their grandmother, was a Riga German. The grandchildren and the Ulyanovsk spouses themselves also did not communicate with their grandfather's relatives. Anna herself had suggestions in her youth that her grandfather could have been a Jew. She was prompted by his unusual surname form and place of birth, Zhytomyr. There, as in Odessa, many Jews traditionally lived there. When Anna began to study the archives, compiling a family tree, this previously forgotten fleeting assumption was confirmed. According to the archives, modern historians note that Maria's grandfather, and accordingly Vladimir Lenin's great-grandfather, was a Jew who converted to Orthodoxy. His name was Moish, but at baptism he received the name Dmitry, which was later indicated as the patronymic of his son, Dmitrievich. In his youth, Moish married a certain Mariam Froimevich. It is also known that in the Volyn province he was engaged in trade and very successfully, but then he was accused of stealing hay, then of fraud in the sale of alcohol and arson. Relations with the local Jewish community did not work out for him, and in the end he decided to give up his Jewishness. Dmitry moved to Zhytomyr. So, Lenin's mother's father was a Jew who converted to Christianity. Alexander Dmitrievich Blank, a physiotherapist and court counselor, a man whose existence the daughter later chose to forget. Maria grew up in a village located in the Kazan province. The girl did not get married for a long time, and only at the age of 26, while visiting a relative in Penza, she met her future husband, teacher Ilya Ulyanov. After the wedding, they moved to live in Simbursk, where their 6 children were born and where the head of the family rose to the position of director of county schools. After Stalin's death, the Jewish origin of Maria Ulyanova continued to be hushed up, so the employees of the archives of the Leningrad region and Zhytomyr, who were responsible for storing documents about Maria Ulyanova's grandfather confirming her Jewishness were dismissed in 1965. Fortunately, shortly before that, the writer Marietta Shaginian managed to make copies of these Zhytomyr archival documents. The data she collected later, after her death, were published in America. By the way, about Marietta Shaginian, in the 1960s, under the rule of Brezhnev, she appealed to the Secretary General with a request to allow her to give information about the aforementioned Jewish relative in a book about Lenin, which she was writing at that time. However, the Secretary General rejected her request. Moreover, allegedly, it was after considering the request of Shaginian that the archive staff were dismissed and documents about Maria Ulyanova's father were seized. Why was Lenin's Jewish origin hushed up? In addition to anti-Semitism, perhaps there was another reason, which was the unwillingness to stir up his mother's past at all. For example, there were rumors that the Ulyanov family's home doctor, Ivan Pekrovsky, who even lived in their house for some time, was Maria's lover, and the future leader of the world's proletariat, they say, was born from him. Firstly, this story was told by local residents who knew this family. Secondly, in the Central Lenin Museum, located in Moscow, in the diploma of the future leader of the revolution, on graduation from the Imperial St. Petersburg University, it is written, Vladimir Ivanov Ulyanov. Well, Ivanov is crossed out and corrected to Ilyin. Supporters of the version about the connection between Maria and the doctor believe that the student Ulyanov initially received a diploma with the patronymic of his biological father, Dr. Ivan Pokrovsky, and then after his death, the Bolsheviks decided to get rid of this evidence. The above version is indirectly confirmed with the fact that in the records left after Lenin's death, his father is not particularly mentioned, but he remembers his mother more than 200 times. But of course, all this is just speculation. In general, the less information about Lenin's parents, the fewer questions to their actions, and the less speculation about them, and accordingly, about his biography, which is already full of dark spots and contradictions. So apparently the Bolsheviks reasoned. By the way, about the riddles associated with the personality of Lenin, the fact that he was a unique personality is undeniable, but can he be considered a genius? Evil or kind is another question